My son took my retirement money and bought a BMW for his girlfriend. I stayed quiet and smiled. 2 weeks later, he showed up at my door crying. Mum, what did you do? My revenge was silent, but it was perfect. Margaret Maggie Chen sat perfectly still in her small apartment in Queens, New York. The notification on her phone screen made her hands shake. Account balance, $247.18. She blinked hard, hoping the numbers would change. They didn't. Just yesterday, there had been $67,000 in that account. $67,000. 30 years of working double shifts at Mount Sinai Hospital as a nurse's aide. 30 years of saying no to vacations, new clothes and restaurant meals, all of it gone. She called the bank. The automated voice irritated her. When a real person finally answered, they told her what she already suspected. The money had been transferred online. All of it went to an account belonging to David Michael Chen, her son. Mum, would you like to file a dispute? The representative asked in a bored tone. Maggie hung up without answering. The apartment was so quiet she could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Outside, a car alarm went off, then stopped. Her phone rang. It was Linda, her co-worker from the hospital. Maggie, did you see David's Facebook? Girl, your boy is living it up. He just bought a brand new BMW, a white one, and his girlfriend is posing all over it like she's in a music video. Maggie's chest tightened. She opened Facebook on her phone, something she rarely did. There was David, her only child, the boy she raised alone after his father died in a construction accident. David was leaning against a gleaming white BMW, his arm around Jasmine, his girlfriend of 8 months. The caption read, "New whip, new life. Some of us are built different." In the comments, Jasmine had written, "My man knows how to treat me right. Big things coming." Maggie stared at the photo for a long time. Then she did something that surprised even herself. She smiled. Not a happy smile, but the kind of smile that comes when you finally understand a truth you've been avoiding. Across the city in a parking lot in Manhattan, David revved the engine of his new car. Jasmine sat in the passenger seat, filming everything for Instagram. "See, baby," she said, touching up her lipstick in the mirror. "I told you your mum wasn't going to use that money anyway." "She's old. What's she going to do, travel the world? Please, you deserve this more than she did." David nodded, but something felt wrong in his stomach. He pushed the feeling away, the same way he'd been pushing away uncomfortable feelings since he was a teenager. Back in Queens, Maggie sat at her small kitchen table. On the wall were photos of David at every age. His kindergarten graduation, his high school prom, the day he finished community college. She had worked 3 jobs to pay for that degree. She sold her wedding ring to cover his books. She went hungry so he could eat. And now this. The day before discovering the theft, Maggie had tried to visit David at his apartment in Astoria. She brought a container of his favorite dumplings that she'd made from scratch. When she arrived, the building doorman stopped her. "I'm sorry, Mom. Mr. Chen left instructions that you need to call before coming." "I'm his mother." "I understand, Mum. But those are his instructions." Maggie had walked home slowly that day. She didn't take the subway. She needed the air, even though it was cold and her knees hurt. She thought about every sacrifice she'd made, every time she'd chosen David over herself. That night, Linda came over with Chinese takeout. They sat together in Maggie's tiny living room. "You've always been strong, Maggie. Don't let this break you." "Do you think children ever realize what their parents gave up for them?" Maggie asked. "Yes, but usually not until it's too late." "I hope it's not too late when David realizes." Linda looked at her friend carefully. "What are you going to do?" Maggie's eyes had a new look in them, something hard and clear. "I'm going to teach him." Not with words, with silence. "What do you mean?" "I've spent 30 years speaking. Now I'm going to let my silence do the talking. And silence, Linda, can be louder than screaming." Meanwhile, David and Jasmine were at an expensive restaurant in Soho. Jasmine ordered the most expensive items on the menu without even looking at the prices. "Baby, we should take a trip to Miami next month," she said, scrolling through her phone. "We can stay at that hotel where all the influencers go." "Yeah, maybe," David said, distracted. Later that night, while Jasmine was in the shower, David overheard her talking to someone on the phone. She had left it on speaker by accident. "Girl, yes, I got him to buy the car. Next, I'm working on getting him to put my name on the title. Then we can sell it and split the money." "What? No, I'm not staying with him long term. You've seen his mum. That's what he's going to look like in 30 years. I'm just here for what I can get." David stood frozen outside the bathroom door. His heart pounded, but he didn't say anything. He climbed into bed and pretended to be asleep when Jasmine came out. In Queens, Maggie was making tea. She pulled out a notebook, the one she used for grocery lists and reminders. She wrote something in her careful handwriting. "This is not the end. This is the beginning of the lesson." Then she made a phone call to Robert Wu, an old friend who had become a lawyer. They had grown up in the same neighborhood in Chinatown. "Robert, I need your help. I think my son has been taking money from my account." "Come to my office tomorrow, Maggie. Bring whatever documents you have." Over the next week, Robert helped Maggie review her bank statements. They discovered that David had been making small withdrawals for months, then took the rest in one large transfer. "He added himself to your account as a joint owner," Robert explained, "but you didn't sign this authorization form. The signature isn't even close to yours. What can I do?" "We can file a report for elder financial abuse. It won't be easy, but it's fraud, Maggie, even if he's your son." Maggie took the papers home. She didn't file the report that day. Instead, she started making calls. She contacted the bank's fraud department. She spoke to the New York State Office of Children and Family Services. She documented everything in her notebook. David started noticing problems 3 days after buying the car. His credit card was declined at a gas station. Then his bank account showed a hold on all his funds. When he called the bank, they told him there was an investigation into suspicious activity. What? What investigation? "I'm not at liberty to discuss the details, sir. You'll receive official notification in the mail." David's hand shook as he hung up. He tried to transfer money from his mother's account again, but the account was frozen. All of it was frozen. Jasmine noticed immediately. "What's wrong with your cards?" "Why aren't they working?" "I don't know. There's some kind of problem with the bank." "Fix it, David. I'm not driving around in a car we can't even put gas in." That night, David couldn't sleep. For the first time in months, he thought about his mother. Really thought about her. He remembered how she used to work night shifts at the hospital, then come home and make him breakfast before school. How she never complained, even when she was exhausted. How she had given him everything. He picked up his phone to call her. Then he put it down. What would he even say? Maggie, meanwhile, was sitting in her apartment with Linda and Robert. On the table were bank statements, legal documents, and a timeline of withdrawals. "The district attorney's office has agreed to review the case," Robert said. "It's not guaranteed they'll prosecute, but they're taking it seriously." "I don't want him to go to jail," Maggie said quietly. "Then what do you want?" "I want him to understand. I want him to feel what I felt when I realized my own son stole from me." Linda reached over and squeezed Maggie's hand. "You're doing the right thing." A week later, David received a certified letter. It was from the New York County District Attorney's Office. They were investigating him for elder financial abuse and identity fraud. He needed to come in for an interview within 10 days. David's world collapsed. Jasmine took one look at the letter and said, "I can't be involved in this. I have a reputation to think about." "What? Baby, I need you right now. Don't call me baby." "I'm done, David. This is too messy." She grabbed her things and left. She didn't even say goodbye. David sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by the expensive furniture he'd bought with his mother's money. The BMW sat in the parking garage, but he couldn't afford the insurance payment that was due next week. He thought about calling his mother. He picked up the phone 5 times. 5 times, he put it back down. Finally, on a cold Tuesday morning, he drove to Queens. He parked down the street from his mother's building. He could see her window from where he sat. The light was on. He imagined her inside, probably making tea, probably sitting in that old chair she'd had since he was a kid. He got out of the car and walked to her door. His hand shook as he knocked. Maggie opened the door. She was thinner than he remembered. Her hair had more grey in it, but her eyes were clear and strong. "Mum," he said, his voice cracked. "Mum, what did you do?" "The DA's office sent me a letter. They're investigating me. Did you report me?" Maggie looked at her son for a long moment. Then she said, "Did you take my money?" "I was going to pay you back." "When?" "After you spent it all on cars and restaurants and a girlfriend who just left you." "How did you know about Jasmine?" "I know everything, David. I always have. I just didn't want to see it. Mum, please. You have to fix this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." "No." David's eyes widened. "What?" "I said no." "You stole from me, David. You forged my signature. You took everything I had worked for. Did you think about me once while you were buying that car? Did you ask yourself if I needed that money for rent or food or medicine?" I wasn't thinking clearly. No, you were thinking perfectly clearly. You were thinking about yourself. That's all you've thought about for years. "Mum, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, I'll do anything." Maggie's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't let them fall. "Sorry isn't enough, David. Sorry is just a word. You need to understand what you did. You need to feel it." "I do feel it." "I feel terrible." "Not yet." "But you will." She started to close the door. "Mum, wait. Please don't do this. I'm your son. And I'm your mother. But being your mother doesn't mean letting you destroy yourself. Sometimes love means letting you face the consequences of your choices." She closed the door gently. David stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door, tears running down his face. Inside, Maggie leaned against the door and let herself cry. Linda, who had been waiting in the kitchen, came and put her arm around her friend. "That was the hardest thing I've ever done," Maggie whispered. "I know, but it was right." Over the next month, David's life fell apart completely. He lost the BMW when he couldn't make the payments. His landlord started eviction proceedings. His friends stopped returning his calls when they heard about the investigation. He got a job washing dishes at a diner in Brooklyn. It was the only place that would hire him. Every night, he came home to an empty apartment with nothing but a mattress on the floor and thought about his mother. Maggie, meanwhile, was fighting her own battle. She had been feeling tired for months, but she had ignored it. Finally, Linda forced her to see a doctor. The diagnosis was stage 3 lung cancer. The doctor said she had perhaps a year, maybe less. "Does your son know?" the doctor asked. "No, and I'm not going to tell him yet." "Mrs. Chen, you should tell your family." "When the time is right, I will." Maggie started chemotherapy, but she did it quietly. Only Linda and Robert knew. She continued working as much as she could. She continued living in her small apartment, refusing to let the cancer define her days. One evening, she sat down and wrote a letter to David. She wrote it carefully, crossing out words and rewriting them until they were exactly right. "My dear David, by the time you read this, I'll be gone. I'm not afraid of dying. I'm only afraid of leaving you without teaching you this last lesson. I didn't report you to hurt you. I reported you to save you. Because if I had let it go, you would have kept taking and taking until there was nothing left of the boy I raised. You were a good child once. You were kind and thoughtful. Somewhere along the way, you forgot who you were. You let other people tell you what mattered. You confused money with worth and things with happiness. I want you to know that I forgive you. But forgiving you doesn't mean forgetting what you did. It means I'm choosing not to let your mistake poison the rest of my life. If you want to honor me, don't put flowers on my grave. Instead, be better. Help someone who needs it. Give without expecting anything back. Remember where you came from. And if you ever have children of your own, remember this. Love is not about what you can get. It's about what you can give, even when it costs you everything. Your mother, always. She sealed the letter and put it in a box with photos of David as a child, his first drawing, and a baby blanket she had saved. 3 months later, Maggie's condition worsened. She was hospitalized. Linda called David. "Your mother is in the hospital. Room 412 at Mount Sinai. If you want to see her, you need to come now." David dropped everything and ran. He took the subway, then ran the last 6 blocks. When he got to her room, he stopped in the doorway. Maggie was in the bed, connected to machines. She looked so small, so fragile. But when she saw him, she smiled. "Hi, baby," she said softly. David rushed to her side and took her hand. Mum, I'm so sorry for everything. I know, I got a job. It's not much, but it's honest work. I'm paying back what I took, little by little. The DA agreed to a payment plan instead of jail time because you wrote them a letter. Linda told me, "Why did you do that?" "Because you're my son, and because I believe you can be better than the mistakes you made. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Maybe not, but I'm giving it to you anyway. That's what mothers do." They sat together in silence for a while. Then Maggie spoke again. "David, I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll remember this feeling, this regret, this shame, and promise me you'll never make anyone else feel the way you made me feel." "I promise, Mum. I promise. And promise me you'll help someone someday. Someone who needs it. Someone who can't pay you back. Promise me you'll give the way I gave to you." "I will. I promise." Maggie closed her eyes, still holding David's hand. "Then I can rest now." She died 2 days later, with David at her side. He held her hand until the very end. When she took her last breath, he laid his head on her chest and cried like a child. The funeral was small. Just Linda, Robert, some nurses from the hospital, and a few neighbours. David had used his last paycheck to buy flowers. He couldn't afford much else. At the service, he stood up to speak. His voice shook, but he got through it. "My mother taught me everything important, but the most important lesson she taught me at the end. She taught me that love sometimes means letting someone you care about feel pain, because that pain is the only thing that will wake them up. I stole from her, I hurt her, I betrayed her trust. And instead of just forgiving me and moving on, she held me accountable. She made me face what I had done. And because of that, I'm becoming the man she always believed I could be. I'm not there yet. I have a long way to go, but every day I try to be a little bit better, a little bit more like her. And every day I think about what she gave up for me, and I try to give something back to the world." After the service, David went back to his mother's apartment. The landlord had let him have one day to go through her things. In her closet, he found the box with the letter and the baby blanket. He sat on the floor and read the letter 3 times. By the 3rd time, he had it memorized. He folded it carefully and put it in his wallet, where it stayed for the rest of his life. That night, he made a decision. He would stay in New York. He would keep working. He would pay back every penny he had stolen, even if it took years. And he would find ways to help others the way his mother had helped him. 6 months later, David was still washing dishes, but he had also started volunteering at a senior centre in Queens, helping elderly people with their bills and paperwork. He made sure no one took advantage of them the way he had taken advantage of his mother. One day, an old woman at the centre reminded him of his mother. She was Chinese, about the same age his mother would have been. She was having trouble with her grandson, who was asking her for money. "Should I give it to him?" she asked David. David thought about it carefully. Then he said, "That depends. Do you think he needs it or just wants it? And more importantly, do you think giving it to him will help him or hurt him?" The woman looked at him with wise eyes. You sound like you learned that lesson the hard way. I did. And I'm still learning it. 2 years later, David had paid back most of the money. He had moved into a better apartment. He had been promoted to assistant manager at the diner. He was dating someone new, someone who liked him for who he was, not what he had. But every week, without fail, he visited his mother's grave. He brought flowers. He sat on the grass and talked to her about his week, about the people he had helped, about the lessons he was still learning. I miss you, Mom, he said one Sunday afternoon. I miss you every single day, but I'm trying to make you proud. I'm trying to be the son you deserved. The wind rustled through the trees. A bird sang nearby. And David felt, just for a moment, like his mother was there with him, smiling the way she used to smile when he was a child and brought home a good report card. He stood up, brushed off his jeans, and walked back to his car. He had volunteering to do at the senior centre. There was an elderly man who needed help filling out Medicare forms. David had promised to help him. As he drove through Queens, past the apartment building where he grew up, past the hospital where his mother had worked for 30 years, he thought about the last thing she had said to him. Promise me you'll give the way I gave to you. He was keeping that promise. One day at a time, one person at a time, one act of kindness at a time. And every time he helped someone, every time he chose to give instead of take, he felt his mother's presence. Not in a ghostly way, but in the way her lessons lived on through him. Because that's what mothers do. They teach us, they love us, they sacrifice for us. And sometimes, when we've lost our way, they teach us the hardest lessons of all. Not because they want to hurt us, but because they want to save us. David had been saved, and now, in his mother's memory, he was learning to save others. That was her final gift to him. Not money, not comfort, not even forgiveness. But the chance to become the man she always knew he could be.